Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Clavius, a game designed by Carrie Anderson and published by Microgame Design Group. This was initially moon-based Clavius in the 80s, and it has been updated to this version here from 2014 by the same designer on his site, Microgame Design Group. And we've already taken a look at Barnard Star, and we have some others that we'll be looking at in the line. And it follows the same kind of format as far as production quality. So if you've seen Barnard Star, you know what to expect in this one. The premise of this game is there is a contested region, the Clavius region on the moon. It is resource rich. So the US and the Russian-European alliance are fighting over control of it. And that's what you'll be doing in this game. So we'll take a look here. On the front cover, you have a CRT and a terrain effects chart. You have a sheet of advanced rules, your rulebook, a couple of maps, and a counter sheet. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here is a look at the maps that come with Clavius. Just like we saw at Barnard Star, these are separate maps and have a border around them, so you can either trim that border away or you can lay one on top of the other, making sure to line up your hexes and then slap some plexi down and you're good to go. But I like the look of the map. It's got great graphics on it. It really does make you feel that this is a thriving mining complex here on Clavius, which is a resource-rich area that the US and the Russian-European alliance is fighting over. And here's a look at the player aid card that comes with the game. You get your CRT and the terrain effects chart. The different types of terrain in the game, you have rough, crater walls, crater plains, depot, colonies, mines, and transportation lines. Those are actually looking like it is pipes, but these are transportation lines. And then the movement costs and then the combat effects, if there are any. And we'll take a look at the counters that come with the game. You have the Russian forces on the left, US forces on the right, and the Russian forces are just Russian Lunar Defense Force. On the right, the US has some personality. You've got US Air Force Clavius Wing, Marine Corps 88th Special Forces Battalion, US Navy 9th Fleet, and Clavius Colonial Militia. So pretty cool to have a little bit of personality to the units. These are, just like we saw with Barnard Star, a fairly thin counter sheet, but I've got to say, I've since punched Barnard Star, and I had said about you have to be careful with these counters because they feel really thin, you may tear them. You still do need to be careful with them, but they punch actually a lot nicer than I expected. These look to be exactly the same type of format, so I'm not as concerned as I originally was with punching these counters, and they also clip well too. Now we'll take a look at the very brief rulebook that comes with this game. Only 4 pages of rules. However, there is a 2-page advanced rules segment that you can add on to flesh things out a little bit more. You have components and your counters, how to read those, and you have your unit legend, sequence of play. Russian player goes first, the American player goes second. Zones of control are in the game, movement, how that's handled for airborne and ground units. Stacking, there is a 3-unit stacking limit in the game. There are overruns in the game, transportation lines and how to destroy them, combat, all your procedures for that. Defenders do fire first in combat in this game. Then you have your dice roll modifiers, nuclear mortar fire, that's kind of neat, support and assault units, and then bombardment, and then some special rules for self-propelled batteries, militia, laser rifles, marine landings, and desperation fire. Then you get into your scenarios here on page 3, so really only literally a couple pages of rules before you get into your scenarios, and there are a few of them on the back here. You get 3 different scenarios and the campaign game, which will combine all 3 days of the action. Designer's notes here at the bottom. Then we have the 2 pages of advanced rules that get added in the game to expand the play a little bit more. Some new counters get added into the game, additional pieces for the sequence of play, zones of control, movement, and then scenarios. You're going to be adding some other units to. Some new rules. You're going to have orbital ground support, collateral damage, oxygen, rocket buses, and then your oxygen sources, transport, and then updates on the designer's notes and moon-based Clavius, and additional counters if you have the original game. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Clavius, the First Lunar War, a game designed by Carrie Anderson and published by Microgame Design Group. As I said with Barnard Star, I really like these kind of garage kits, as I call them, these small publishers that come out with their games. And these games have been designed years ago by Carrie, and he's updating them since, which is great to see that he's got that support for his games. He believes in them that much. He's publishing them himself and updating them. So 6 pages of rules if you use the advanced rules, 4 without. Really simple game you can sit down and play in an evening by yourself, or you can introduce somebody who's curious about wargaming to a game like this. You know, science fiction, it feels a little less wargamey for people, but as we saw, zones of control and overruns, things like that are in the game, so they're learning basic rules for wargaming. If the theme is maybe kind of something that they'd find a little concerning, playing an actual war game, sci-fi doesn't feel as bad. This would be a great way to get them involved and get them interested, and then they find out that war games are actually a hell of a lot cooler than they think. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this game. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.